people, welcome to Prep Elevate. Today again we'll discuss a few questions on Parajumbles. This time we'll cover the slot 2 questions of CAT 23. And if you people remember and if you've watched the previous video, I asked you guys to solve one question and comment the answer down below. So today we are going to discuss that question as well and another question which appeared in the same slot. If you want to look at a few rules that we discussed, I will request all of you people to just refer to the first video where I first discussed a few rules, obviously in brief, and then come back to this video because here straightforward, very straight away we're going to just solve the questions, right? All right, so we have the first question on the screen. I will ask you guys to first solve the question on your own, and I think this was the question that I gave you people to solve also. So just take a look at the screen for people who are looking at the question for the first time. Maybe take a screenshot or pause the video for a while and then watch the explanation, right? So just like all the other questions that we've been doing, the first idea is to understand what kind of language this question has. So I am looking like randomly scanning questions. So contemporary, bottled, leopard, theme, culture. This is something I look at this and I understand that this is not a very familiar word, perhaps the name of a person, but I know that when I'm reading this option I'm not going to read it in depth. So that is the benefit of scanning. Conflict, Western tradition, African practice. Contradict, okay, so probably, okay, views contradict, so we are probably looking at some contradiction here. African culture, okay. Christian concepts, African tradition. To be very honest, this is somewhere a medium level kind of question because the sentences are also of decent length and the words, they're not unfamiliar, but probably they're discussing some kind of conflict. And I also look at the words here: condescending, enveloping, unaccommodating. Not very easy, all right, on the surface level, not very easy is what I would say. So let us discuss this in depth. Okay. Contemporary African writing like the bottled leopard voices this theme. All right, I found a word this. Now, this is very specific. That means the theme has somewhere been touched upon. And then this is going to, come after that, voices this theme. So before this, so definitely one, I cannot open the Parajumbles, my set of sequences with one, because I have to look at what theme we are talking about. Two children, two backgrounds, to juxtapose. Juxtapose. What is juxtaposition? That is when you place two different things very close to each other just to compare what the differences are, right? That is the meaning of juxtaposition. Two varying culture, right? So two different things you place very close to each other just to understand what the differences are. All right. Statement 2, remember, not reading this word while scanning, we came to that conclusion. Ike explores the conflict and casts the Western tradition as condescending, enveloping, unaccommodating towards local African practice. When I am reading such words, right, I might not want to read it in absolute depth. I'll come back and see where these words fit. All I know is there is somebody who is exploring the conflict and they feel that the Western tradition is condescending. What is condescending? That is, when you are, you have a very strong personality and you try to dominate. Okay, that is a condescending personality, right? Enveloping, unaccommodating. Unaccommodating is when you don't take other people's views into consideration, right? So that is unaccommodating. So far 1 and 2 I have not been able to connect, right? 3, however, their views contradict the reality. However, that means I am going to find a sentence probably where the opposite of this is stated, right? And that is why this contradiction is coming into picture. However, their views contradict the reality. So that means some reality has been stated somewhere and this takes a U-turn and says that their views contradict the reality. So statement, when statements like this, however, so that means we are looking for contradiction. If I get statements like therefore, okay, so that means it is trying to bring the picture together. Okay, so these are some indicator words, right? So I can say that these are indicator words. They give us an indication as to which way the discussion could go. Okay, indicator, right? Contradict the reality. For a rich and sustaining local African cultural ethos exists for all those who care to see and experience. So if this statement says that a real African culture, a rich sustaining African culture exists, that means what the contradictory statement could be, that it does not exist, right? So that means I should logically find a statement which is opposite of this. So here if I'm talking about existence of a rich African culture, okay, then I should find a statement which talks about that this does not exist. Okay, let me read 4 and find out. Western Christian concepts tend to deny or feign ignorance about the existence of genuine and enduring indigenous African tradition. Look at this, 4 and 3, very well connected. This is what we were talking about, that if this is the contradiction, then what is the actual statement? That there is no existence of a beautiful, rich, cultural African, tradition. So feign ignorance is, feigning is to pretend. Okay, so statement 4 says that Western Christian concepts, they don't want to acknowledge, okay, or rather they do not want to accept, or they pretend that the African tradition does not exist. 3 takes a U-turn, so 4 and 3 definitely are mandatory pairs for me. They go hand in hand. 4 and 3. Okay. Now look at this. This is the word that we discussed. This. So that means this is the theme that we are taking ahead. That yes, this a rich African culture exists, and the example is given in 1. So 4 and 3 should be followed with 1, and then obviously I am left with 2. So 2 is the closing statement. So how did we come to this answer? First of all, however was the breakthrough word in this. I found a contradiction. So I went ahead and tried to understand that do we have a statement which contradicts this, right? So that's something that I could begin with a connector. I could, form pairs there. So 4 and 3, that is how I formed a pair. Then 1 told me there's the word this. So this theme, this 1 stands as an example for 3, that a rich culture actually exists, and then I'm left with 2, so I can comfortably place it at the end. So again, I would reiterate, if you do not find the statements together, you can always look for pairs. It makes it easier to come to the actual answer. So what is the final sequence? 4, 3, 1 and 2. Under exam scenarios, I would say that this is a medium level difficulty, that kind of question. Okay, I'll move to the next question. All right, so again, I would request you people to pause the video for a while or take a screenshot, and then solve the question, and then come back and look at the explanation bit of it. All right, okay. So I'll just start with the usual exercise. I'm just trying to scan the passage, look for what kind of words are here. One thing that I've immediately noticed is the sentences are shorter in length. ठीक है, sentences छोटे छोटे sentences है, except statement 2, which is unusually lengthy. Usually the lengthiest part, the lengthiest sentence of the lot could very well serve as my introductory or concluding statement, क्योंकि उसमें हम सबसे ज़्यादा बातें कर रहे होते हैं. अगर मुझे स्टोरी स्टार्ट करनी है तो मुझे सबसे ज़्यादा एक बैकग्राउंड सेट करना पड़ेगा, और अगर मुझे स्टोरी एंड करना है, अगर मुझे सबसे ज़्यादा उसको समराइज करने में मुझे वर्ड्स की ज़रूरत पड़ेगी. नाउ दिस इज़ अ वेरी जेनेरिक स्टेटमेंट. ओके, डोंट टेक इट एज समथिंग दैट इज सेट इन स्टोन कि ऐसे ही करना है. नो, दिस कुड जस्ट बी वन ऑफ द इंडिकेटर्स, कंसिडरिंग कि बाकी 3 स्टेटमेंट से ये मुझे सबसे ज़्यादा लेंथी लग रहा है. ठीक है, so abhi I am just looking at the words, scanning things. So I am looking at words like ants. Okay, could this be about animals? I don't know. Insects, animals. No single neuron holds complex information. Acha, so this has already taken a turn. Ants, and then probably वो कुछ किसी का तो example था. So we are talking about neurons here. ठीक है? Although the human brain, okay, neurons, brain, कुछ तो biology type है ये. Emergence functions, neurobiologists. अच्छा, it's very hardcore biology kind of thing. Complex, actually this is complex. Qualities, ठीक है. Nonetheless again एक indicator word की तरह ये serve कर सकता है. Let's see how we can make use of this. The sum of all neurons, ठीक है. Complex human emotions, all right. Human consciousness, again this has this has been cat ka one of the favorite topics or themes to explore. Either you'll have one passage or a parajumble or a parasummary that somehow deals with human consciousness, right? Emergent property of the human brain. At face value, although the statements are shorter in length, it looks like a very technically dense question to me, but let's see if we can solve this. Okay, we'll start with the first statement. Like the ants that make up a colony, no single neuron holds complex information like self-awareness, hope or pride. This looks like an example, right? ये किसी का तो example है. So like the ants that make up a colony, no single neuron holds complex information. इसका मतलब probably we are talking about एक न्यूरॉन में सारा इंफॉर्मेशन स्टोर हो, ऐसा पॉसिबल नहीं है. जैसे एक कॉलोनी बनाने के लिए यू हैव अ कॉलोनी ऑफ एंट्स, तो उसी तरह एक न्यूरॉन इट्स नॉट पॉसिबल फॉर अ न्यूरॉन टू होल्ड ऑल कॉम्प्लेक्स इंफॉर्मेशन. So probably कुछ तो ऐसा लाइन I should be able to find which talks about summation, right? अगर एक के लिए पॉसिबल नहीं है, probably सम के लिए पॉसिबल है. Why I'm saying this with a little bit of confidence is like the ants. So किसी का तो ये एग्जाम्पल है, तो कहीं पे तो मुझे कुछ ऐसा दिखना चाहिए जहाँ पे न्यूरॉन्स के सम के बारे में हम बात कर रहे हैं या कलेक्टिवली हम न्यूरॉन्स के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं. लेट्स सी, दिस इज वन ऑफ द वेज ऑफ थिंकिंग अबाउट इट. अगेन सबसे लंबा सेंटेंस. Although the human brain is not yet understood enough to identify the mechanism by which emergence functions, ठीक है, we don't know the exact ways of working, most neurobiologists agree that complex interconnections among the parts give rise to qualities that belong only to the whole. Okay, so इसका मतलब if there are some things which are really complex in nature, so you need to have a collective synchronization between them so that it gives qualities, it gives rise to qualities that belongs only to the whole, right? So here we are talking about emergence functions, and here we are also talking about the mechanism by which emergence functions. ठीक है, emergence is a word I saw somewhere. अच्छा, human consciousness is an emergent property of the brain. So maybe कुछ तो लिंक हो सकता है 4 और 2 के बीच में. इमीडिएटली फॉलो करेगा या नहीं, आई एम नॉट श्योर, बट सेम वर्ड्स मुझे कहीं तो देखने को मिल रहा है. स्टेटमेंट 3. Nonetheless, the sum of all neurons in the nervous system generate complex human emotions like fear and joy, none of which can be attributed to a single neuron. ठीक है, so here we are talking about again, फिर it is again single neuron versus the collective scenario that we were talking about. So to generate complex emotions we need sum of neurons, right? So single neuron may not be able to generate complex emotions, we need sum of all neurons, right? So remember one way we looked at example, right? Ki ants make up a colony, so similarly no single neuron holds all such complex emotions. अभी एक चीज we have to notice that statement 4 looks like like, see, look at this, इसका कोई पैर मिल रहा है क्या मुझे? I am not really able to immediately connect, although I know कि 4 और 2 में कुछ तो similar way में discussion चल रहा है, but 3 and 1, right? यहाँ पे मुझे समझ में आ रहा है कि 1 is an example, ठीक है, 1 is an example and 3 is giving us the statement. तो 3 जो explain कर रहा है, 1 उसको example के साथ explain कर रहा है, right? So after looking at all 4 statements, what I have realized is 4 or 2, they look like statements which are not really directly connected. At least I have not been able to find pairs for them immediately, but 3 और 1 का तो बहुत directly हमें pairing दिख रहा है. Again, nonetheless यहाँ पे ना indicator word है, ठीक है, तो अगर nonetheless as a word means what कि ठीक है, अगर ये नहीं भी हो रहा है तो भी इससे ये पॉसिबल है, दैट इज द मीनिंग ऑफ नॉनदलेस, ठीक है, ऑल्दो नॉट व्हाट वी एक्सपेक्टेड बट ठीक है, नॉनदलेस इतना तो हो रहा है. सो लुक एट दिस. This looks like statement 4 looks like an introductory statement to me for now. एक floating statement है जिसका मुझे कोई पेयर मिल नहीं रहा है, but 3 और 1 मुझे पता है they go together. Like the ants that make up a colony, no single neuron holds complex information. Nonetheless, the sum of all neurons generate complex human emotions. So ये तो बहुत, they look like perfectly well connected. So 1, पहले we talk about ants and then 3 वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट. अच्छा, जैसे एंड्स के जैसे एग्जाम्पल हमने लिया था कि एंड्स मेक अप अ कॉलोनी, उसी तरह सम ऑफ न्यूरॉन्स जनरेट कॉम्प्लेक्स इमोशंस. तो 1 और 3 वेल कनेक्टेड. आई एम लेफ्ट विथ 2. अब 2 तो स्टार्टिंग स्टेटमेंट हो नहीं सकता बिकॉज आई एम नॉट एबल टू फाइंड एनी अदर like link to it. If I start with 2, this looks like more of a conclusion kind of statement. Okay, like I told you, the lengthiest statement या तो introduction में आता है usually या तो conclusion में. यहाँ अगर हम इसको introduction में डालेंगे ना, then this looks like a floating statement. इसको कोई base नहीं मिलेगा statement 4 को, ठीक है. तो that is why the correct sequence should be 4 1 3 2. 1 और 3 visible. These are mandatory pairs. 4 and 2 look like floating statements. अब इसे अगर हम किसी और सीक्वेंस में डालेंगे, so entire sequence is not going to make sense. So this should be the correct answer, 4 1 3 2. This is again one of those questions which could be deceptive under exam scenarios. Deceptive as in statements छोटे हैं, looks like समझ में आ जाएगा, but then probably you could reach a point wherein एक अल्फाबेट के वजह से if you mess up the sequence, so वहाँ पे you will start getting issues, you will not be able to rearrange, and time is also a constraint. So that is why this again I would categorize this as medium level difficulty. Yeah, also I would categorize it as difficult also for others if not very well versed with language, right? So this is a question for you people. So I'll step aside, take a good look at it, solve it out, and then you can comment the answer in the comment box. In the next video, I'll discuss the answer to this question, right? I hope you enjoyed today's video and you got to learn a few things which would prove to be helpful in your exam scenarios. We'll keep coming back with new videos. Thank you so much.